Welcome to part 3 of Let's Play Beneath Nightmare Castle by Peter Darvill-Evans. At the end of the last part, I was about to read paragraph 175. Here we go. You reach a corner of the garden. The path and the wall turn to the left, and in the corner a gap in the wall forms a rough doorway into the base of one of the battlement towers. The interior of the tower is dark and silent. The path continues uninterrupted alongside the garden until it reaches another tower at the next corner. Do you want to enter the base of the battlement tower, turn to 284, or will you continue to the next corner of the garden, turn to 44? We are going to enter the base of the battlement tower and turn to 284. You step into the darkness of the ground floor of the tower, and you notice that the air is warm and musty. As your eyes become accustomed to the gloom, you realize that this room is used to store the garden compost. Everywhere there are vast heaps of decaying leaves and rotting vegetables. There is no sign of any other door from the room or any access to the upper floors of the tower. You can investigate the compost heaps with the tip of your sword, turn to 122, or you can leave the tower and continue north and continue towards the next corner of the garden, turn to 44. We are going to investigate the compost heaps with the tip of our sword, so therefore we're turning to 122. Thrusting your sword at random into Thrusting your sword at random into various piles of rotten vegetable matter, you are rewarded with an assortment of interesting finds. A mouldy turnip, a broken earthenware pot, and a dead sapling. But you are intrigued to find that in one particular heap your sword meets no resistance. No matter how far you push into the sodden mass, you seem unable to touch the floor. Puzzled, you start to move the compost to one side, and soon you reveal a large hole in the ground. It looks as if one of the flagstones has broken and fallen through into a space below the floor. You can just make out the cubical shape of the subterranean room. It is littered with yeah, there's a mistake there. It is littered with dust and compost, and there is a small green glowing shape in one of the far corners. You decide to investigate, so you lower yourself through the rectangular opening, turn to 317. I like the bit of irony in this paragraph. Interesting finds a mouldy turnip. That's quite funny. Anyway, 317, here we go. The cellar is cold and smells so noxious that you feel sick. A tickling sensation runs all over the surface of your skin. Nothing attacks you, however, and you are able to retrieve the glowing object. It is a globe of green glass, and it feels warm as you cup it in the palm of your hand. It's radioactive. Carrying it carefully, you hoist yourself back through the hole in the tower floor, and you stroll into the garden, where, glancing downwards, you realize that your body is covered with hairy spiders. Some are as large as your hand. Test your willpower. If you make a successful roll, turn to 204. If you're unsuccessful, turn to 353. Okay. Right, our willpower is currently 11, so let's test that. It's done in the same way as luck, so we have to reduce it by 1 after we do this. Anyway, we need this to be 11 or less, which it was. Good. Remove any buzzing. So our willpower goes down to 10. There we go. It was a successful roll, so we're turning to 204. You drop your backpack and the green globe. You drop your backpack and the green globe and throw yourself to the ground, rolling over and over and slapping at your body. Crushed spiders fall from your clothing, leaving sticky smears, but others attempt to find areas of exposed flesh into which to sink their mandibles. Fight them as if they were one opponent. Giant spiders, skill 6, stamina 8. If you destroy them all, turn to 153. Okay, giant spiders 6, 8. Off we go. Giant spiders, 6 and 8. Okay, my skill is 12, goody. Right, off we go. Right, 6 plus 5 is 11. I get 16, so 11 to 16. Whoops. Whoopsie doodle. Right, okay. Yeah, off we go. 6 plus 11 is 17. I get 18, so 17 to 18. Nearly couldn't add up there. 17 to 18, so I win again. Good. Right, 4. Okay, whoops. Need that back again. 6 plus 5 is 11. I get 22, so 11 to 22. Down to 2. Okay, 6 plus 10 is 16. I get 20. So 16 to 20. Down to 0. Okay, that's end of the giant spiders. Remove any buzzing, should there be any. That's that. Good. Right. If you destroy them all, turn to 153. Yeah, 153. Sorry. I was just reading my notes. If we fail that willpower, then that cost us 2. That would cost us 2 stamina points. Anyway, brushing away crushed spiders, you look for the green globe. It did not break when you dropped it, but it is now glowing very brightly and is getting brighter by the minute. It is radiating increasingly intense heat. Again, radioactive. Will you walk away from it, turn to 330, put it into your backpack, turn to 36, or stay close to it to see what happens, turn to 178? We are going to put it in our backpack and turn to 36. The globe is almost too hot to touch, but you manage to fumble it into your backpack. You can feel its heat through the canvas and leather, but it seems to be diminishing in power. Before long, you cannot feel it at all, and you continue on your way towards the next corner of the garden. Turn to 44. You have reached another tower in a corner of the garden. To your left, the path continues along the surrounding wall and passes a wide staircase that ascends from the garden. The wall of the square tower in front of you is windowless, but there is a small wooden door at the base. The door is slightly ajar and there is darkness beyond. If you would like to enter the tower through the door, turn to 394. If you would rather walk to the staircase and use it to leave the garden, turn to 212. Okay, we're going to enter the tower through the door and turn to 394. You step into the tower's dark interior and the door slams shut behind you. You spin round, drawing your sword, and with a gurgling roar, a ferocious creature attacks you. There is no source of light in this room, and you have no idea what you are fighting. Luckily, it keeps up a constant throaty growl which helps you to locate it. Its weapon seems to be a heavy, blunt object, and it is hindered by the darkness almost as much as you. How do you know it's almost as much? Unknown assailant. Skill 5, stamina 8. If you defeat it, you pull open the door to throw some light on the dead body. I'll read that in a moment. Okay, unknown assailant, skill 5, stamina 8. Let's do this. Unknown assailant. Skill 5, stamina 8. Okay, my skill is 12. Off we go. So 5 plus 11 is 16. I get 23. So 16 to 23. Down to 6. Right. 5 plus 8 is 13. I get 15. 13 to 15. Whoops. 4. Right. 5 plus 3 is 8. I get 19. 8 to 19. That's 2. Right. 5 plus 8 is 13. I get 19. So 13 to 19. Whoops, just made the window a bit smaller there. Okay. Anyway, that's the end of Mr. Unknown Assailant. Let's remove any buzzing, should there be any. Yeah, this old dice program sometimes starts buzzing. I don't think it happens on my new laptop. I say new, I've had it more than a year now, but on my old one it made it buzz, which was annoying, so that's why I do that, just in case. And I only find out it's done it after I finish recording the video, so I'd rather not risk it, otherwise I might have to redo the video. Anyway, enough of that. Alright, that's good. If you defeat it, you pull open the door to throw some light on the dead body. It is a very ugly ogre, dressed in rags and wearing a huge white bonnet or turban on its relatively small head. There is nothing else in the room except for a flight of stone steps heading up to a small door. Will you try on the oversized headgear, turn to 133, inspect the headgear first, turn to 209, or climb the stairs, turn to 51? Okay, we're going to climb the stairs because the headgear is obviously dodgy. So we're going to turn to 51. The door at the top of the stairs is apparently bolted or barred on the other side. It is also very battered and splintered. You conclude that the ogre the ogre with whom you have just dealt has made a sustained attempt to break through it with its club. You can think of only 3 options. Shoulder charge the door until it gives way, turn to 173. Inspect it closely to find a way to open it, turn to 325. Or yell, I've just killed the ogre, let me in, turn to 235. Okay. We're going to yell. Well, we're not going to shoulder charge it because obviously if the ogre can get through it, it's obviously dodgy. Don't know why inspecting it is bad, can't remember, but we're going to yell, I've just killed the ogre, let me in. We're going to turn to 235. Okay, from the other side of the door, you hear the sounds of heavy objects being laboriously shifted, and then a gruff voice calls, come in, slowly, and with your weapons sheathed. You push the door open to reveal a large, airy room full of tidy shelves of plant pots, chests full of garden tools, and herbs drying in bundles in the rafters. There are windows in the walls to your right and left, and another door in the wall opposite you. In the middle of the room stands a frail old dwarf with bright green hands and forearms. There is a rune-inscribed battle-axe stuck through his belt, and you suspect that he can use it effectively despite his great age. He addresses you again. If you have indeed slain the ogre that has kept me from my garden these past 10 weeks, soldier, then you have earned my gratitude. I will allow you passage through my storeroom, whether you be friend to Baron Tholder or foe. And there he is. He stands aside to let you pass. Will you thank him and leave through the door in the far wall, turn to 282, or will you tell him about your quest, turn to 312? Okay, we are going to tell him about our quest, and therefore turn to 312. Having taken a deep breath and a precautionary hold on the pommel of your sword, you tell the dwarf gardener about your old friendship with the Margrave of Neuburg Keep and your mission to cleanse the town of evil. The old dwarf ponders for several minutes and finally sighs. Very well, I believe you. I can't think why anyone should tell such a story unless it were true. And anyway, even if you are a villain and an impostor, I don't see how you could make things worse than they are already. I'll help you if I can. Sit yourself down. Eat, if you have food. I've none myself. It's been a long time since you last had a chance to relax. You have found a temporary haven and an ally. Recover 1 luck point if you have. Recover 1 luck point. Need I do that? Yes, I do. Good. Up to 12 then. If you have no provisions in your pack, you rest for a few minutes and then ask the dwarf for information. Turn to 396. If you have some food, turn to 3. If your pack contains both food and a piece of blood lurcher tentacle, turn instead to 222. Okay, so we have some food, so we're going to turn to 3 because we do have some food. If you want to eat a meal and recover some stamina, you can do so now. You can also choose to offer food to the dwarf. He will certainly accept if you do. If you decide that you cannot afford to waste your provisions by handing them out to other people, the dwarf will understand your point of view, and if you eat, he will watch glumly until you finish your meal. Deduct any food you have consumed from your adventure sheet and turn to 396. If you give food to the dwarf, you must deduct one portion of provisions for the food he eats, plus another one if you eat 2. If you have only one portion in your pack, you can share it with the dwarf, but you will regain only 2 points of stamina. Turn to 334. Okay, we are going to offer him some food. We don't need any ourselves. Sorry. So we're going to go down to 5 for our provisions and turn to 334. He will watch glumly. Surely he has lots of herbs from his garden to eat. Obviously a meat pie can't be grown though. Anyway, so turn to 334. The dwarf gardener has eaten very little recently, and he relishes his portion of rations as if it were a banquet. I thank you again, soldier, he says. That's the second service you've done. That's the second service you've done me, and I don't know how I can repay you. Ask away, though. Some of these herbs have strange properties, and I know a little about the goings-on in the keep. I'd let you have my axe, Bockhor Bill, but she's getting temperamental these days. She'd have me attacking you if I weren't careful. He seems to find this idea very amusing and chuckles for some time. Ah, dear me, dear me. Where was I? I remember. Ask me for something, soldier. Will you ask for a preparation to bolster your willpower? Turn to 151. Information about potential allies in the keep? Turn to 225. Or the dwarf's opinions about the three-pronged spearhead, if you have it? Turn to 375. Okay, we're going to ask for a preparation to bolster our willpower and turn to 151. I thought you were looking a bit peaky, says the dwarf, although I'm not surprised at anyone being, shall we say, a bit more nervy than usual, what with all these strange beasties on the prowl and such like. I'll put something together that'll soon sort you out. We'll need some of this dried herb here. It's known as wolfwell, and then this root, ground to a powder. It's orcsbane, but we won't use very much. And from this jar, a few mountain sweet flowers dried in the smoke of honey-tongue wood. Pound it all together, and there you have it. It's best taken as an infusion and followed by a good night's sleep, but you'd better try to eat it dry. It won't taste good, but it should do the trick. And sure enough, although you choke on the powdery mixture, it has a definite effect. You feel warmed, as if the sun had suddenly broken through the clouds. You stretch your limbs and laugh with joy. You can restore up to 2 points of lost willpower. The dwarf has more information for you. Turn to 396. Okay, so let's put our willpower back up to 11. Turn to 396. Pushing aside a cobweb collection of bean poles, trellises, and bales of straw, the dwarf reveals a grimy fireplace in a corner. He calls you over and shows you that, as well as a chimney leading straight upwards, there is also a narrow gap at the side of the grate. You can just make out the first few steps of a staircase leading downwards in the thickness of the tower wall. This will take you into the cellars, says the dwarf. It's probably the only way you'll get into the keep without someone else knowing about it. But you can go through the other door and try getting across on the battlements if you want to. If you want to use the secret passage to the cellars, turn to 25. If you decide to go through the door and out onto the battlements, turn to 282. Okay, we're going to use the secret passage to the cellars and therefore turn to 25. Excellent. Good. Okay. You strike a flint, light the wick of one of the many oil lanterns in the storeroom, and by the flickering light you cautiously descend the steep and narrow stairs. At the bottom, a passage, roughly hewn in the solid rock, leads away into darkness. It is cold and dank. Water drips onto you as you creep forward. At irregular intervals, shafts pierce the roof of the tunnel, providing a little illumination. The shafts are too long and sheer to climb, and you see metal grating across the distant ends. You are fairly sure that the passage is taking you beneath the castle's inner bailey, towards the keep. The stairs are out of sight behind you, and the tunnel disappears into darkness ahead of you. There is a wooden door blocking a side tunnel to your right. The door is held shut by two massive wooden wedges that have been hammered between it and the surrounding rock. Do you want to try to remove the wedges and enter the side tunnel? If so, turn to 388. If you would rather press on along the main passage, turn to 248. We're going to press on along the main passage and turn to 248. The tunnel comes to an end at a door. At first you can see no way to push it, but after a few experimental pushes and pulls, you realize that the stone slab pivots about a horizontal central bar. You crawl through the lower opening into a long, low cellar, and having established that there is no immediate danger, you push the door back into place. The walls of the cellar are faced with stone slabs, and it is now almost impossible to differentiate the door through which you have just come from the other slabs. The rectangular cellar has a normal door in the center of the short wall at its other end, and a door in the center of each of the long walls on your right and left, although you cannot see these two doors at first, as they are obscured by the two lines of huge barrels that occupy the length of the cellar. You walk between the rows of barrels, each of which has a tap and a small cup on a string. You decide to taste some of the contents of Baron Tholder's cellar, but the barrels all look alike. You have to take pot luck. Roll one die. If you roll 1 or 2, turn to 166. 3 or 4, turn to 84. 5 or 6, turn to 197. Okay, let's roll a die. And we get a 2, so that's that. So we're turning to 166. Yeah, 166. You select a barrel and turn its tap, filling the cup with clear golden liquid. It has a spicy fragrance and tastes delicious. Having drained the cup, you feel considerably refreshed. Restore up to 2 points of stamina if you need to before turning to 286. Not entirely sure we need to. Oh no, we do, sorry. Yeah, let's turn to 23. Good. I mean, let's put our stamina up to 23. Good job, I checked. I thought I was at maximum. It's luck and skill that's at maximum, and willpower. Anyway, turn to 286. I think if we'd rolled 3 or 4, we get 2 points of stamina, but our skill is subtracted by 2 or something. 5 or 6, I think we get some damage or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, 286. So we actually lucked out there with the dice roll. We beat the 1 out of 3 probability of being successful. Anyway, you hear a footfall behind one of the cellar's middle doors. Before you can react, the door flies open and 4 robed swordsmen rush in. You face them with your weapon at the ready and back away between the rows of barrels. Behind you, another door opens and you turn to see another 4 soldiers entering the cellar. You are surrounded. 8 swords converge on you. If you want to fight, turn to 239. If you decide to surrender, turn to 49. If you have a jewel-encrusted ring, an emerald, or any gold pieces, you can try to bribe your opponents. Deduct the item you decide to offer from your adventure sheet and turn to 97. Okay, we're going to surrender, which means we're turning to 49. Sandwiched between 2 of the burliest of the swordsmen and surrounded by a squad of others, you have no chance to escape as you are frog-marched out of the cellar, up a flight of stairs, through the gloom of the servants' quarters, and into the opulent private chambers of the Margrave of Neuburg Keep. Your guards halt at a pair of grand carved doors on which the leader raps loudly. When the doors have been opened, he bows and announces in a barbaric accent, May it please the Margrave, a foreign spy captured within the castle walls. A swordsman shoves you from behind, and the entire troop marches in to present you to Baron Tholder. Turn to 127. Oh dear, he looks unpleasant with those eyes, doesn't he? On that cloaked figure next to him. Really don't like those eyes. They're quite unpleasant. In fact, are they supposed to be like that? It's a bit pixelated, I don't know. Anyway, when you were last in Tholder's great hall as his honoured comrade in arms, you marvelled at the austere magnificence of the vast stone-pillared chamber. It seemed to reflect the Margrave's grand and rigorously martial personality. Now you are his prisoner, and everything seems to have changed. Sumptuous tapestries cover the walls, and the floor is littered with rugs and cushions. Ranks of impassive swordsmen stand on guard while their captains and Neuburg merchants are waited on and entertained by lithe maidens in gauzy silks. Some of the young women are dark-haired beauties from the south. Others, wearing chains between ankles and wrists, are from the Neuburg area. Tholder himself is sprawled on a grandiose gilt throne, a goblet in his hand and a faraway look in his eyes. Seated next to him on the dais is I think that's how it's pronounced. Please correct me if I'm wrong, honestly. Seated next to him on the dais is a small figure in a dark red cloak with a cowl that conceals its face. This figure whispers in Tholder's ear as you approach. Will you remain silent while Baron Tholder dispenses summary justice and decides your fate? If so, turn to 392. If you want to identify yourself and appeal to the Margrave's memories of your past exploits together, turn to 261. We're going to remain silent. So we're going to turn to 392. One last look at the picture. There we go. 392. Again, that's very disconcerting, that picture. Oh, here we are. Good. The mysterious red-robed figure continues to prompt Baron Tholder, who rapidly finds the subject boring. He readily agrees that you should be taken down to the dungeons and makes it clear that he has no interest in what happens to you after that. 10 guards escort you from the great hall and down a series of narrow staircases. At one point you reach a dark underground gallery. Half of the escort contingent has already started down the next set of spiral stairs, and the other half is coming downstairs behind you. You have a slim chance to escape, although you do not know how far you will get in the darkness. If you want to sprint along the passage into the dark, turn to 88. If you continue to follow your captors, turn to 227. Okay, we're going to continue to follow our captors and turn to 227. Here we are. The guards have no reason to suspect that you are a particularly brave or clever intruder, and as you seem prepared to cooperate with their wishes, they adopt a relaxed attitude. You are amazed that they make no effort to deprive you of your weapons and backpack. Restore 1 point of luck and turn to 64. I don't need the luck point, do I? No. So we're turning to 64. If you are a prisoner, all dungeons are the same. The pits beneath Neuburg Keep are no exception. You are in a cramped, damp, filthy, airless hole, and the fitful torchlight that sometimes creeps between the cracks in the metal-studded door is so weak that you can barely make out the shapes of the fat rats that scurry among the dirty straw on the floor. If you have any food with you, you can eat a portion now. If you have a green glass globe, you can extract it from your backpack, turn to 117, or you can take out the trident head, turn to 362. If you have neither of these items or do not wish to look at them, you will just have to sit morosely in your cell until something happens, turn to 206. Okay, we have a spearhead, but we don't have a trident head. So, I also don't want to use the green glass globe now, so I'm just going to sit morosely and wait for something to happen. Turn to 206. It seems as though several eternities pass as you shiver in the dank darkness of your cell. You sleep fitfully on the rotten straw and wake to find rodents gnawing at your toes. You feel hungry. If you have provisions, you have plenty of time to eat another meal. No, I don't have to. Good. You have plenty of time to eat another meal. You begin to despair of anything ever happening, and then you hear light, hesitant footsteps approaching your door. A key grates in the lock. With infinite slowness, the door opens, and in the doorway a human shape is silhouetted against the feeble light from the dungeon hallway's single cresset. The figure lifts its short sword and says, "Who are you? Will you attack?" Turn to 226. Say that you are one of Tholder's men wrongly imprisoned. Turn to 340. Or say that you are on a mission to cleanse Neuburg and its keep of their infestation of evil. Turn to 85. Okay, we're going to say that we're on a mission to cleanse Neuburg of evil, and turn to 85. As your eyes become accustomed to the deep gloom, you see that your visitor is a slight young man in military clothing. He is clearly not a Southerner, however, and your answer seems to interest him. "Shield your eyes," he warns, and pulls aside his tunic. A ray of brilliant white light bursts from something on his chest. It is not too dazzling if you avoid looking directly at it. The youth beckons you to follow him out of the cell. Turn to 29. "My name is Cernic," the young man stammers. "I am a priest of Oiden from his temple in Neuburg. I came here secretly to explore, but I found Southern soldiers everywhere, and worse in the depths. I could not risk the talisman of Loth falling into the hands of Zakaz, so I found a safe haven, this wretched dungeon, and have been praying for a warrior mightier than I am to relieve me of the burden of carrying this responsibility. If you intend to destroy Zakaz, you will be of help. This will be of help." He lifts the shining disc on a leather thong from about his neck. I'll start again. He lifts the shining disc on a leather thong from about his neck and places it around yours. With some misgivings, you conceal it beneath your tunic. The young man is very nervous and plainly anxious to escape now that he has given away the talisman. Will you let him go and then follow him through the open door out of this dungeon hallway? If so, turn to 376. If you decide to restrain him and demand more information, turn to 150. Okay, we're going to restrain him and demand more information and turn to 150. And this is a long paragraph, and I will read that in the next video. So I will stop the video there, and in the next video I will read paragraph 150. I actually prefer this, not reading the paragraph at the end, so I can start it again rather than reading it again at the start of the next video. So I think I'll try to do that in future more. Anyway, 150 we're on now. Yeah, so thanks very much for watching. I hope you can join me for next time, and goodbye.